is Tony Matar. I'm a church planter in the city of Seattle, planted a church called Venture Seattle.
This is Dr. Brandon Beals. My wife and I are the founding and lead pastors at Venture Church in the Seattle area, and you are listening to Pastors Unfiltered.
We're having all night revival.
Hey everybody, this is Pastor Brandon. I'm here by myself, minus Tony Matar. This is Pastors Unfiltered. Thank you for joining us here today. Before we dive in, introduce you to our special guest, I want to mention a couple things. As always, we want to thank our sponsor, Anderson Lawn Care. Right before the fall, you need to get some last-second yard work done before the kids go to school, whatever it may be. You should reach out to Micah at Anderson Lawn Care. He'd love to help. We also want to remind you, if you like these episodes, we encourage you to follow us on iTunes, Spotify. Give us a 5-star review. Let us know that you appreciate it. And if for some reason you're mad about something that we've said or something that we've done, all complaints go to morgan.b@ourventure.church. He loves it. And honestly, if you're bored, just send Morgan an email because he needs more things to do. But without further ado, since it's just me running solo, I want to introduce you to our guest. His name is Bret Allen. He's been a great friend of mine for years and years. He was my district youth director, and now he is my network leader. And also, like I said, great friend. He's a leadership guru. He's pastored a large church in San Jose, pastored a large youth ministry in the Bay Area, and now he oversees all the churches in the Northern California, Nevada network of the Assemblies of God. And he's much skinnier now, but he used to look a lot more like the professional wrestler Goldberg. Bret, thanks for joining us today.
Good to be with you, Pastor Brandon.
How many times have you been told you look like Goldberg?
I have been stopped in airports for an autograph thinking I was Goldberg.
They actually thought you were him, not like his little brother.
That's right. Back in the day.
Do you know what people have mistakenly thought I was? Who they thought I was?
No.
Tom Hanks. People come when I was actually speaking at a church in your network last weekend, and several people came up to me and said, "Are you related to Tom Hanks?" I said, "Unfortunately, no. He has a lot more money than me." But so Bret, really quickly, give everybody a little bit of your resume. Tell them about your family.
Well, I am married to Valerie. We've been married 44 years. We have 2 adult children that both live away from our home. Praise the Lord. They both got married and found their way out of the house. Have 4 grandkids, and my mom and dad are both pastors with the Assemblies of God, and they're both still living. My dad's 91. My mom's 85 this month.
Wow. Where do they live?
They live in Rockland,
Okay.
just north of where I'm at, and my dad worked until about a year ago. He retired, and they've been great pastors, both of them, all of my life.
One of the things that I always find fascinating about you whenever we spend time together is, like me, you have many hobbies.
I do. I do have a few things that help me keep the other side of my brain exercised.
What would you say would be your 3 primary hobbies?
Well,
If you had to pick 3, narrow them down to 3.
number 1 would be woodwork. Most of the tables and
See, you've not
furniture.
told me that one.
Yeah, there you have it. You didn't ask.
So what type of woodworking do you do?
I do tables primarily, bookshelves, that type of thing, where just about every table in our house I've built, and the bookshelves I've built.
Have you always been good at that?
I started during COVID, and I figured if I was going to be sheltered in place and locked down, I was going to come out of that season with a new skill set. So I bought the tools and started doing woodwork, and I made some of the furniture that's in my office at the district office and some of the furniture that's in my home.
So most people during COVID, they just binge shows on Netflix, and you decided to become a woodworking expert.
Yeah, I went to YouTube University and learned some things about woodworking, and then put it to work.
Do you have a particular style that you prefer of woodworking?
Live edge. Everything's live edge.
Oh. My new office in our expansion of our facility is going to be completely decorated Western style, live edge.
There you go.
I'm going to have a live edge desk, live edge conference table, live edge bookshelf. So I'm with you. I like
Yep.
it. All right.
So-
Second hobby.
I'm a beekeeper. I have hives of bees on my property, and we take care of the bees and harvest the honey and give honey to our family. And so I really enjoy that. It's a fascinating universe working with bees.
You were
It's-
telling me at lunch how many bees you have. How many bees do you have?
Well, one of our hives, probably, I would guess it at somewhere. Of course, I haven't counted them, but I guess we'd probably be 60 to 70,000 bees in one of the hives.
60 to 70,000 bees.
Yeah.
Have you ever been stung by the bees?
One time,
One time.
and it was just a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
So was it just one bee, or did
Yeah,
they
just
say attack this guy and
No,
they
it was
swarmed?
it was just one. Stung me on my hand,
Okay.
and yeah, felt bad about it. That got them upset enough to get stung. But we've had bees for a couple of years. I'd never been stung before.
So how much honey do you typically produce in any given year?
And in May and June, we harvested 12 quarts from our two hives.
So is there a particular reason why we brought you in to speak and you didn't bring me honey?
Probably not. Probably I just didn't want to put honey in my suitcase.
Okay. All right. I love the beekeeping. It's so amusing. And then what else? What would you say is number 3?
I rebuild cars, custom cars.
Okay.
Old cars. I'm working on a 69 Corvette right now.
Wow.
Getting it ready to go. My youngest son, Andrew, and I are rebuilding that.
Oh, that's
And
fun.
so
It's a fun hobby to do with your son.
Yeah, I've rebuilt cars with both of my sons, and I'm doing another one now with Andrew.
Wow. What are you going to do after you finish the Corvette?
I don't know. Not sure. I'm going to drive it. One of these days, Val and I are going to take it down Route 66. Whenever we get some free time and are retired from district life, we're going to drive down
Have you ever
Route
done that
66.
drive before down Route 66?
Just part of it on a Harley Davidson.
It is very much like the movie Cars. It is like that. Yeah, we've done that road trip before. It's pretty fun. All the little stops and things like that. When we were talking about your love of cars, I was kind of sharing my love of cars too. And I'm having a garage built. Finally got a permit. I'm excited. And the sole reason that I'm having this garage built is so that when the weather's cruddy in Seattle, I can work on cars. But I'm going to start with a Volkswagen Beetle because
Good.
I'm going to start easy.
Those are great to do. We did one of those together.
Yeah.
So they're great cars.
I don't think I'm quite at the Corvette level. I'll start with the Vita Bug and move on from there. One of my favorite stories to always tell people about you whenever they ask is just because I love the journey. We're all on these journeys. And when you've known somebody for a long time, we have lots of memories of each other. But for those of you that are listening, you've probably seen pictures of me before, and you're aware that I have numerous tattoos. I don't think you can see any of them from the way I'm dressed right now, but I've had numerous tattoos. My very first tattoo that I ever got was in Australia. I'd traveled with my senior pastor, Glenn Berteau, for a big conference that he was speaking at. And the Holy Spirit did a lot in my life, and I just wanted to remember the moment. I was walking through the town and saw a tattoo place and did what boys shouldn't do, which is get a tattoo on my ankle. Because, men were not supposed to have tattoos on our ankle. But I couldn't think of where else to. Do you have a tattoo on your ankle, Kellen? Is that why he's looking at you? Okay. Everybody's looking at Kellen. So I thought, Kellen's got tattoo. You've got a tramp stamp and one on your ankle. So I ended up getting this tattoo of a cross on my ankle, and I was so worried I was going to get fired. But Glenn Berteau saw it on the airplane. He didn't care. The first person that really cared was you, Bret. Bret was at my church speaking at an event for our youth ministry for the church, and he sees my tattoo. Do you remember anything that you said?
I don't.
You looked at me, you looked at the tattoo, and you said, "Is that real?" I said, "Yes." And he goes, "Are you trying to make a statement or something?" And that was literally what he said. Fast forward to today, he has 2 boys that he deeply loves that are both ministers,
Right?
covered in tattoos.
One
I
has
thought they both had
tattoos.
tattoos.
No.
Oh, Matt Clayton told me they both did.
No.
Okay, so one is serving Jesus, the other one's
That's
backslidden.
right. That's
Okay.
right.
All right.
If that's the gauge, you're exactly right.
Yeah, there it is. No, you have been, honestly, you've been a great influence in my life, great friend over these years. And you are like Yoda And it's not like a bald joke when I say that. You're just, the amount of wisdom that you give out is amazing. For those of you that are listening, we just had Bret do our staff training for our Mill Creek campus, and he did 3 sessions on leadership, and they were just extraordinary. I mean, absolute gold, perfect for our team. The only regret we have is that we did not record them to make them available for staff at other campuses. But I had one staff person after another come up to me and say, PB, you have those 3 or 4 leadership one-liners that you use all the time. And he said, this guy had like 100 leadership one-liners that he's using. And so it was really excellent. So want to thank you for that. But what I would like to talk to you about today for all of our listeners, and we have just people that are listening, we have pastors that are listening from all over the country. People will listen to this podcast years from now. But what I would like to talk about is if you could go, like in your history, you were a youth pastor and you had one of the larger youth ministries in Northern California. You went from being the youth pastor to your district youth director. You went from there to being a senior pastor at a really large church. And then you went from there to being the superintendent. So you have multiple levels of leadership experience. If you could go back to yourself in the days that you were an associate and give yourself some advice, now as a seasoned leader who's seen it all, I would love to know maybe 3, 4, 5 things if you could go back and give yourself advice with that maybe some of our listeners that are associate pastors at a church, maybe this may be great advice for you to hear, might make you a better leader on the staff with whoever your boss is. So, and let's take one at a time and then we'll kind of unwrap each one and kind of talk it through. But okay. I didn't prep you for this very well. I told you I was going to talk to you about something else, but you're smart. You can whip this off the top of your head.
So I would say to the younger me, you mentioned we had a really great youth ministry, and if I could visit myself in those days, I would say, Bret, you need to be very careful not to take credit for your successes and not to take as much blame for your failure.
Yeah.
I was celebrating myself too much, and I was too hard on myself. And both sides of that got me in trouble. And I would just go back and I would say, stay in the middle of the road. And when things are going well, stay in the middle of the road. And when things are going tough and there's some failures and there's some difficulties, stay in the middle of the road. Don't let your highs and lows get away from you on that stuff. I put too much importance in how many kids were coming, and took it too hard when one of them left.
Yeah, as youth pastors, we kind of lived in this state where, depending on how the youth service went that particular Wednesday night, determined the amount of joy we had the next several. If the service was great, we were awesome. If the service was terrible, we were miserable and wanted to quit.
Right. And I came into a ministry that had been established, and it, like all youth groups, it had a name and it had a logo and all that. And I just adopted that. I just hung on to that. The other thing I'd say to my younger self is make sure that you do that you don't run around and have to change the name of everything.
Yeah.
Leave it alone and change the quality of it and change the effectiveness of it and change the mission of it. But you don't need to change the name recognition that's gotten out. The man that was there before me had done a great job getting the name of that youth ministry across the county, and it would have been silly for me to change it. And it's one of the things I did well. I did that same thing as a senior pastor, and I've done that same thing as a district superintendent, where almost every other district in our nation has become a network. We're still a district, and it's just because I don't feel like changing it, because it's not worth the time, the energy, or the resources spent. I'd rather just change the conduct. I'd rather act more like a network than spend all the time and energy trying to convince everybody that we are.
We are, yeah. Sometimes we change stuff just for the sake of changing stuff, and we forget that the previous person that was there whether they did a terrible job or not, there were people that deeply loved that person. And when you go in and change everything immediately, it's almost like you're saying, well, that was all wrong,
Mhm.
but I know how to do it right. So a smooth transition doing that is a great idea.
And it's a very inexpensive way of honoring what
Yeah.
came before you.
It is.
Just leave it alone. Leave the name alone. You can live with that.
So I don't know if I've ever told you this story. When you were the youth pastor, it was Calvary Temple Concord, right?
That's correct.
And you had this big youth ministry and you were in a tent.
That's right.
And I'm not even sure if you'll even remember any of this, but I was in the Seattle area and I was invited to come in and speak at your youth ministry, but you were traveling during that time. And I had a sermon that I had written called "Which Chair Are You Sitting In?" And I painted a chair black, a chair gray, a chair green, and a chair red. Does this all sound familiar?
Yeah.
And I had heard it from a conference from a guy by the name of Benny Perez, which is, what I'm talking about.
Sure.
And so that was what I was taking on the road. I'd done my modified version of it, but I didn't know it had gotten out of the Seattle area yet. So I come with my chairs, I'm ready to go. And as I walked into your auditorium, I'm in the back praying, and your assistant youth pastor, I think his name was Matt. And I noticed that all your chairs were red.
Yep.
And I thought, I don't know if it was the Holy Spirit, if it was my insecurity. I don't know what it was. But I walked up to Matt and I said, why are all the chairs red? And he said, oh, about a year ago, Pastor Bret did a sermon, "Which chair are you sitting in?" And, the red chair means you're on fire. So he painted them all red. Needless to say, I pivoted. So I'm dying to know. So were you like me? Did you hear it from Benny, or did Benny get it from you?
No, I probably heard it from Benny. We were all getting good stuff from Benny. We still get good stuff from Benny. I came up to his conferences. I remember that I had the green one, the gray one, and the black one hanging in the rafters of that tent. And I don't remember where I got that, but Benny is probably a good answer.
When was the last time that's pretty good. It's sort of like if you don't know the name of a quote, just say Winston Churchill said it. When was the last time you've done that sermon?
I was a district youth director. I was speaking at a camp in Southern California, and I think that was the last time I did it.
I get
Early
asked
90s.
all the time by my former youth kids who are now adults with teenagers, hey, would you ever pull out that chair sermon again? And do you think it would work today?
The problem with that sermon was having to haul 4 chairs around with you. It was way too heavy to get through.
And they were all spray painted and yeah.
Oh man.
I might pull it out at if I get asked to speak at a youth thing again, I'll pull out the chair sermon. That's good. All right. So what's some other words of advice you'd give yourself?
To not argue with my senior leadership. I worked for my dad, and there were a couple of times where he had instructed me to do some things, and I didn't want to do them, and got an attitude about that.
So
And
you had the type of relationship with your dad where you could argue with your dad?
no, I was just quietly had an attitude about it.
My dad's
Yeah.
Italian, so you didn't argue with my dad.
Yeah, I tried the passive aggressive thing with him. It didn't go very well. Went for about a day and a half, and he confronted me on it. And I've looked back on that many times in my life and thought, what a immature and unknowing thing that was. That if I hadn't had a senior pastor that cared enough to confront the attitude, it could have really got me on a bad track.
Yeah.
Dealing with leadership.
Yeah, and your dad is going to give you more grace in that type of a setting because you're his kid than maybe a boss that you're not related to would.
And he's very free to confront you probably more harshly than
Yes.
he would the rest of the
He'll
staff.
respond quite quickly if you mess with him. You made a statement, and I actually quoted it to our staff when I introduced you earlier today. And I said, I remember as a youth pastor, you were doing this youth pastor training, and you were giving us advice on how to get along with our senior pastor better. And you made a statement that I have quoted for years. And I teach at Northwest University. I teach this to my students at NU. Anytime I get an opportunity to mentor associates anywhere, I always quote this. I hope you still believe it. If not, You should correct the quote now, but you always say that as an associate, you're not called to the church, you're called to the leader. Because the reality is, as soon as the pastor decides he doesn't want you on staff anymore, he can ask you to leave, whether you're called there or not. So you have to love your senior pastor, love your boss, and feel an affinity and a calling to that person.
Absolutely. And as we talk today, God gives vision to the leader. And then those that are following the leader are trying to figure out how to bring that vision into reality through their expression of ministry, whether it be children or youth or music or whatever it is. So to fall in love with the leader and to say to the leader, how do you see your vision manifest in my area of responsibility? What would that look like to you? Boy, those are, that puts you on very safe ground, and it puts you on ground that the Lord can really bless.
Yeah.
And so I really do caution young guys from having a lot of vision and trying to express vision and having contradictory vision with their senior pastor, being critical of their pastor for not having enough vision, all of those types of things. It does not play well for them in the long run.
Well, you're talking to our staff, and you'd talked about how two different visions in the same place causes division.
Yep.
And I thought that was like a great analogy that you gave the staff. One of the things that I remember, and this tells you I listened when I was a youth pastor. Part of it was when I was at Calvary, I was there. I was the 13th pastor in tenure. And in my first 6 months, it was like 6 guys quit and they left throwing boulders at our pastor. And when 6 people leave, it feels like the whole church is falling apart. And I remember just wanting to leave. And that was one of the things. You kind of sat me down, calmed me down, and said, Brandon, is it possible you're not here for you, but you're here for him? And you did this teaching along with he's called, you're called to him. You talked about these are questions that you should ask your boss. You should ask your pastor. I've quoted this forever too. You should ask him, what is your vision?
Yep.
And you should try to do whatever you can to make sure what you do aligns with his vision. And then you said, and you should ask him what hurts you. And then make sure you never do it.
And never let it get to him.
Yep.
If someone else is doing it, protect him. Never get out in front of your leader unless it's to hold up a shield.
So for everybody that's listening that has known me for years and years and you've heard me say things like that, I'm now officially letting you know that it didn't originate with me. I heard it from Bret first. So he's officially getting the credit. But you at least get to know that somebody was listening.
Yeah, that's good.
That somebody was listening. All right. What are other words of advice you'd give?
Oh, man. That your private time has more to do with your public platform than you know. The more time that you spend in quiet and in meditation and in thought and in prayer, that has greater impact on your platform than studying other speakers or using other people's messages or getting feedback and input. That private life and the role that it has with public ministry is inseparable.
Yeah, going back to even the very first thing that you said, the line that I always use with that is that if you live by the praises of men, you'll die by their criticisms. And I think what helps you as a minister, and if you can learn this when you're young, it's just a great habit when you're older, is that if it's you and Jesus that matters, if you're getting your words from Jesus, if you are studying and you know for sure that, hey, I have prayed, I have researched this, I've thoughtfully prepared this, you should be able to navigate your way through criticism because bottom line, you did your best. And in the end, you just want to honor Jesus with what you do. I always tell my campus pastors, and most of my campus pastors, we hire them when they're younger, and some are older now because they've kind of grown up. And the number one thing that I get asked by them is, how do you deal with the criticism in the lobby after the service? And I always tell them, it's got to go in one ear and out the other. I said, but if the praises stay in your heart, then the criticism will stay in your heart. No matter what anybody says, you respond the same way. Thanks. In one ear, out the other. You should forget the praises and forget the criticisms. by the time you leave, because ultimately, we say this all the time as ministers because it sounds good, but you have to live this where this is about you and Jesus. Like you want to look at him, have him say, well done. You do it for an audience of one. And that's a really great lesson for a young guy to learn.
Yeah. And the reality is that when you please the Lord, you're going to make the right people happy and you're going to make the right people unhappy. And if your goal ever becomes solely having everybody like you, and none of us would ever say that is my stated goal to have everybody like me. And yet a lot of ministers, they need to be liked. And when you're being faithful to the Lord and you're delivering what the Lord has asked you to do, it's going to please some people and it's going to make some other people unhappy. And I think that it should. I think that that's right. In the life of Christ, there were people who were saying, this is the most amazing teaching. Where does this wisdom come from? He speaks with such authority. And at the same time, the Pharisees and the Sadducees
Were gnashing their teeth
they
at
were
him.
just having so much trouble with what he was saying, and they were so angry. So I think that the Word of God works that way. And I think when we deliver it in a pure-hearted fashion, that it does have that kind of an effect and an impact. And so if you start putting in a qualifier on your pulpit ministry that is unworthy of being the qualifier of a pulpit ministry, and that's being liked by everybody, if you have to be liked by everybody, that ministry probably is not going to be a long-term.
Yeah, this is not the
deal
right
for you.
profession if you need everybody to think you're awesome all the time.
Right.
Because Jesus warned us that all men will hate you because of me.
Yep, that's exactly right. When there was 4 people on the planet, 25% of the world's population hated God. Hasn't gotten a lot better for him.
Yeah.
And just as a rule of thumb, it's probably good not to try and accomplish things in ministry that God didn't do.
No, that's really good. It's good. What else you got?
Well, let's see. On criticism, let's go with that. On something I'd say to my younger self: eat the meat and spit the bones. Sometimes there's some truth in criticism.
Yeah.
Not all criticism is.
You could have done something better, maybe.
Yeah, it's not all ill given. There is some criticism that should probably be listened to and considered. Take the benefit. That which isn't beneficial, don't take it. But I've received some healthy criticism in my life, all the stations of my life, and not all of it's bad. Some of it has been beneficial to me. But I think that's an important thing I would tell my younger self. Eat the meat, spit the bones on criticism.
You and I have one thing in common, and that is that, and I've heard this my whole life. I have my resting face is my Italian scowl. And you just, by the nature of looking like Goldberg, you just look intimidating. And people, when I was first a youth pastor, adults would come to me and they'd say, you're always mad. You're always mad. And I'm like, I'm never in a bad mood. Like literally, I'm never in a bad mood. And it was because I wasn't smiling. And I had to receive this criticism and think, my facial expressions are actually deceiving people on how I really feel. Because in my heart is this deep love for people, and I want to be fun. I want people to know that I love them. But my facial expressions were deceiving me. So I had to consciously tell myself, smile when you speak, look people in the eyes and engage people and all these things. And it was criticism I didn't love hearing, but in the end, fast forwarding to my 50s, it's made me a better minister today.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, those are beneficial things. And it's nice that somebody takes enough time and they care enough to be able to say something to you.
Yeah, they might not have come across in a way where it came across as caring, but in the end, yeah, you're right. It takes a lot of courage to confront anybody about anything.
Sure.
Because most people would rather just not say anything and just shove it deep down inside and things. So when you look back at kind of your journey, again, you went from big youth ministry to youth director, senior pastor of a big church, the superintendent. You are the superintendent, so I'm not going to ask you about that one. When you look back at the different jobs you've done, obviously the one you're doing now is your favorite. But if you go back, is there one that you miss the most?
Oh man, I was a youth pastor during the golden age of youth ministry.
There was mega youth ministries
Yeah,
everywhere.
everything worked, and it worked on the campuses, and it worked. We had great camps, and we had great conferences and conventions. I loved youth ministry. When I became the district youth director, I loved every aspect of that. I had some national relationships from different parts of the country that I loved and I valued, and they were great input to me. I met Troy Jones when I was a youth pastor, and then we were DYDs together, and that was a very sweet season of my life, and it became very, very quickly my favorite. I authored some books during that time, did a lot of traveling internationally and nationally. I loved that season. And then I became a senior pastor, and it became my favorite season. And this is now my favorite season. It's every season that I've been in, I feel very, very humbled to have been given that opportunity and to be given that kind of a chance.
Yeah.
And I just, man, I don't spend a lot of time looking back. I really love the season I'm in. It's the same way raising kids. It's fun when they're little and they're newborns. And every season after that becomes your favorite. And the season I'm in with my sons right now is my very favorite season I've ever had with my sons.
It is true. When they're babies, you think, I don't want them to get older. And then they're toddlers, and you think, this is so much more fun than when they were a baby. I don't want them to get older. And
Absolutely.
And now that your kids are adults, you're like, this is the best season with my kids ever.
Absolutely.
It really, really is true.
Absolutely.
Going back to the youth ministry thing, I talk about this all the time. Youth ministry in the late 90s, it's like something that we've never seen since.
No, it was unique. It was
You
a
had-
wonderful time.
You had mega youth ministries everywhere. The Holy Spirit was moving, tons of innovation. I think what's interesting is if you fast forward to today, many of the guys or gals that had those big youth ministries are now pastoring all the large churches in America now. It really ended up being a really good testing ground.
Absolutely. And a lot of the DYDs that I served with went to leading churches in the district. And and they were all product of that era. So it was a great season. It was a wonderful season. And the temptation is to say, well, this is when youth ministry was done and we need to duplicate that. Obviously not. That was a season. And now we're in a different season.
Yeah.
Kids have
Way more demands on their schedules.
yeah, and the battles that are being raged over teenagers today, we were not experiencing when we were ministering to teenagers in the mid 90s. And so, man, I pray for our youth pastors because we need great youth pastors. And
Yeah.
whether they have large youth groups or they don't have large youth groups, man, I just praise God that we've got men and women that are on the front line and they're taking care of kids with all of the things they're dealing with in school and all of the things they're dealing with in society and all the things they're dealing with on social media. Their world is complicated. It's difficult. So
Yeah,
praise
and-
God for what they're doing.
And parents are different today than they
Mhm.
were. And back in the days when you and I were youth pastors, we basically became like the parents for most of the kids. I mean, their parents were very absent from they're very trusting of other people. You just think about the things like, you'd load up 5 kids in your car and go drive them 2 hours away to a conference or a concert, things parents would never
Or take
let
60
happen
of them
today.
overseas for 3 weeks.
Yes. We always talk about, we were in Modesto. We took 120 students to Harlem, New York. And the oversight, everybody was under the age of 30. Nowadays, you'd never be able to get away with those types of things. Yeah, I do feel bad for them. It has, I think what's helped is, I'm very fond of those youth ministry days, but we've learned to not expect the same types of maybe quote unquote numbers and results that we had back then. Because nowadays, I mean, you can have a big church and if there's 100 kids in the youth ministry, it's like revivals
Right.
breaking out. But back in those days, it was normal to have 500, 1,000 students in the youth ministry. It's
Right.
kind of a wild thing. So to the senior pastoring thing, you were leading kind of one of the historic AG churches in San Jose, an area that lots of people love to live. Like it's an innovative area. When you look back at that, what is the thing that you are most proud that Jesus did while you were there?
Our vision statement for the church, our mission statement rather for the church, was that we were going to make sure that everyone within 1 square mile of that church had an adequate witness of the gospel.
Wow.
25,000 people were within 1 mile of that church. And we spent our years making sure that we had saturated that area with a knowledge to where we really were confident that people had a right to say yes or no based on knowledge. And that's one of the things that I really am appreciative the Lord let me be involved in, was the saturation of that area outside our walls and yet in our own neighborhood. We did neighborhood appreciation events where we just would invite people to whatever it was, just based on the fact that we're neighbors and we want to make sure we're interacting with you. We were on the doorstep of every home within a mile 3 times every year, knocking on the door and interacting with our neighbors.
What would you, when you knocked on their door, what would you talk to them
Sometimes
about?
we gave Bibles away.
Okay.
Sometimes we offered to pray. Sometimes we invited them to Easter. Sometimes it was, we were inviting them to a 4th of July celebration that we held at an amphitheater in Shoreline. So there were different reasons, but we were on their doorstep 3 times a year, every year for the 10 and a half years I was there.
How often did people not like it when you're on their doorstep?
We would get a random complaint every now and then, and we just mark that address off and not go there anymore. But it was overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah, I think it's actually good for people to hear, because a lot of times our excuse when we're in maybe the more upper middle class, affluent areas is that don't go to their houses, just send them a direct mail. That's it.
Right.
And you were in San Jose.
Right.
You were in the epitome of affluent
And I
upper
was
middle
told
class.
100 times it wouldn't work.
Yep.
And when I was voted into the church, Valerie and I went down to San Jose from the Sacramento area the first 3 weekends before we reported for duty. And I went door to door in the neighborhood around the church. And I asked every house the same question. I'm new in the community. What do you know about that church over there? None of them knew anything about that church. And these are houses that were across the street. And I
So
said,
they weren't saying anything negative. They just weren't saying
a couple
anything.
of them had negative things to say. I've heard this or I've heard that, but none of them had been there and they didn't know. Some people that weren't aware of the fact that it was a church, they thought it was a business park. And so I thought, well, these people aren't coming. We've got to change our interactions with them, and we've got to go to where they're at because they don't know who we are. And that started that. And boy, we had great growth in that church, and a lot of it was attributed to the fact that we spent a concerted effort outside the walls of the church and the community.
So if God were to call you to senior pastoring again, is this one of the tactics that you would employ right away?
I think so. It depends on the community where God put me, but I really think so. I think it's really hard for a church to be effective and always expecting the Great Commission to be transformed into the Great Invitation. I think there's a part of go that when you go, God blesses it uniquely.
Yeah.
That can't always happen with you inviting people to the church. The people in the church need to understand how to have those kind of interactions with somebody on their doorstep or in their garage or out working in their front yard, because that's good training, equipping for having conversations at work or in the community. If everybody that you interact with, if the church is going to be effective, it's got to go beyond, please come to my church. It's got to be, I am the church and I want to have an interaction with you as a part of the church in your setting.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think it's really good, simple, practical advice. And it's
It's
kind
the
of
same reason we went to high school campuses.
Yeah.
That's where all the teenagers were.
exactly.
You can't just keep sending flyers to the campus. You've actually got to go to the campus, interact with the kids, and build that bridge.
Yeah.
Churches have a responsibility to build bridges into the community, and a church with no bridges is an island. And churches, every bridge that gets built, the church accesses a group of people, and it gives an opportunity for those people to access the church. But bridge building for churches into communities is an everyday occurrence that has to be the focus of a church.
And it can never stop, because
That's right.
especially in the areas where your church was and where Venture is, they're very transient areas.
They
These
are.
wealthy, tech-driven areas.
That's right.
Every few years,
6 months, 8
turning
months,
over people.
they're flipping them around. That's
Yep.
exactly right.
Couple more questions for you. Then you became you guys called superintendent or network leader? I can't keep track of the titles
Superintendent.
UAG people use.
I understand.
Yes. So how did you end up becoming the superintendent? What was the process that led to that? Is that something that you'd aspired to?
No, I had never. As a matter of fact, I told my predecessor, Jim Brady, multiple times. I said, "Well, I just want to tell you, Jim, I don't want your job," because I watched it. I was on the presbytery. I was on the leadership team. I saw him age. I saw the stress he dealt with, and I wasn't hungry for that. And I loved the church where I was pastoring. We were having a very, very good season. I went to district council 1 year. Jim had retired, and our process and our bylaws is that they take nominations from the floor, and nobody is contacted in advance. They just send out blank ballots, and they count those. And if you receive so many ballots, then your name gets put on the ballot. And so I went. I got nominated. And the man I work with, who's my assistant superintendent, he was nominated, and the secretary-treasurer was also nominated. So the three of us that worked together were on that ballot, and we went on that ballot for 8 ballots.
Wow.
And I sat there quietly. It was a 3-day council. There were paper ballots on each one of those, and it took us 3 days to do it, 8 ballots, and at the end of that, I had been elected.
Yeah. And again, you're given the right in the process to withdraw your name at any time, too.
Well, after you can on the nomination, but once you leave the nomination and you go into them casting ballots, you can't withdraw your name anymore.
Yeah, you can't on another round.
Mm-mm.
Oh wow! So once
Nope,
you're in, you're in.
You just get to sit there and see what's going to happen.
I don't know. I like that process, to be honest with you. I like it because it really does. It allows not just an insider to get an opportunity, but maybe somebody who's deserving that wouldn't normally be considered.
So the interesting thing about our district is that we had a long history of electing either the assistant superintendent or the secretary treasurer, and we hadn't elected an active senior pastor in many, many decades. And so the fact that names were nominated, mine happened to be one of those, and I didn't get up and pull my name. Nobody even knew who was going to be available. And there were a lot of names put on there. And then they just started, working them way down until there was an election. It was a fun process, and it was an interesting process. I sat with my church staff while we went through that process. They were sitting all around me while we were at district council. So it's one of those times in my life, Brandon, I just said, God, I don't know. And you do.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be quiet. And I just, my answer is yes. Just tell me what I'm saying yes to.
Yeah, I love what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But if this is, I always say, like, to some degree, like you and I are into sports. And so I use sports metaphors constantly. But we're on his team, and he can sit us on the bench if he wants. Odds are he's not. But whatever position he wants us to play, we're going to go in and do. And so put us where you want us.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the great attitude to have. What have you loved about being the superintendent?
I love pastors, and I love working with pastors, and I love encouraging pastors, and I love helping pastors succeed. My sign off on all my letters is dedicated to your success. I love seeing pastors win. And so we have reshaped our budget. We've reshaped our vision. We've reshaped our calendar, all around the focus on pastors and helping pastors do well and helping pastors succeed. I'm not interested in thinking up new programs and telling pastors this is the new program that everybody needs to do. I'm not really interested in being a bureaucrat. I'm not really interested in spending all my time on bylaws. I am interested in being involved in the life of pastors and helping them through the challenges and the issues, and celebrating the victories with them, and going and celebrating anniversary services and church anniversary services and installing new pastors. man, anything in my world right now that allows me to draw a straight line between me and a pastor and allows me to be pastoral in that situation, those are home runs for me.
One of the things that I appreciated when you and I hung out in May, and that was really probably the first time that we had spent an extended amount of time together, I think since I started Venture. So it was like we had obviously texted each other, emailed, or saw each other on some trip we were
Right.
somewhere. And I just remember sitting down for dinner with you. We were with our wives, and it was, I could pick a city, and I would pick the most random cities. I would say, tell me what is going on in Tonopah, Nevada. And you would be like, oh, you'll be blown away by what's happening at that church. And I just thought, this is a guy who loves what he's doing and loves the pastors at these churches. For what it was worth, I was really impressed, and so is my wife. That was really encouraging.
We all serve where the Lord asked us to serve, and if you're in a rural setting and you're surrounded by a Mormon community, or you're not surrounded by anything, you're isolated by land mass, you're just being faithful. And that just means that the district office needs to do a better job running supplies and encouragement to where you're at. It's my habit that once or twice a month, I leave my office and drive to a community I don't know, connect with the pastor, have him give me a tour of that community, have lunch, have him give me a tour of his church. And by the end of that day, when I get home, I know what's going on in one of our communities that I didn't know about at the beginning of the day. So for me to be out of the office and get to spend a day like that once or twice a month, those are great days, because I really learn a lot.
Well, you've proven that you care, because you've driven all the way, or you've flown all the way to Seattle now twice in the last several months, and have been at a couple of my campuses, and now you're doing our staff training, which again, really thank you for your time.
It was a great day.
So when you send out the birthday letters and the anniversary letters, do you really see them, or do you just sign them?
I sign every one of them. I pray over them.
Okay, all right.
And then when they get put in an envelope, they go into my staff meeting. And every one of those envelopes is handed out around tables, and each one of those names is called out. And then we stop and we pray over all the birthdays and all the anniversaries of the ministers in the district. I also send letters to all the widows and widowers on the anniversary of the loss of their spouse. 1 year, 5 year, 10 year. They get a letter from me remembering that date and letting them know that I'm thinking about them and praying for them on that day of loss.
All right, I'll feel extra special when I get those letters from you in the mail.
Yep, they are personally signed, and I spend time on them.
All right, I like it.
And there's a new one every year. I write a new letter for that cycle, so it's not just the same letter that goes out every year.
I like it. What are you excited about for the future?
Man, we are in such a better shape right now in our district, our churches. We're in better shape right now than we were in 2019. And the recovery and the strength of the churches after the 2020 season has been obvious that this was good for us. And I am really excited about what's going on in our churches. There is just increased influence in the community. There's an increased move of the Holy Spirit. We're doing unbelievably well in our missions. We're doing unbelievably well with water baptisms and spirit baptisms. There are some just exciting things going on across the life of the district, and it's just hotspot after hotspot after hotspot. There are just amazing stories. So I am greatly encouraged. 2020, 21, 22, those were challenging years.
You might not have been as
everybody.
excited then.
They were just challenging times. Pastors had a need for me to be able to speak into their life some good encouragement.
They were pretty discouraged.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those were tough days. And there were some counties in California that were pretty tough on that COVID stuff.
Yeah.
But today we are really doing well, and I am greatly encouraged, and I am really, really, really excited about what's going on in our churches and our pastors.
Yeah, it's a fun time to be a pastor right now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
There's something happening in America.
There's something
pretty exciting.
happening. We're on the verge of something else happening.
I think it's getting bigger and bigger. It's swelling. We sense it.
Yep.
It's very familiar to these youth ministry revival days of the late 90s. It's fun. Hey, the last thing that we always ask all of our guests is we ask 3 questions. What are you listening to? What are you watching? What are you reading? Doesn't have to be spiritual. Like, nobody's grading you on it. We're just kind of curious. This gives our listeners an opportunity to know you. So is there any podcasts that you're listening to right now?
No, I'm not huge on podcasts. I've been listening to a couple, nothing noteworthy that,
You didn't listen to Taylor Swift on
No.
Jason Kelsey's podcast?
I just heard that on the news, and that was about enough. I listened to a man out of Texas named Gerald Brooks, and I care for him. I like his teaching style, and he's a leadership coach. And if anybody, he's probably the premier podcast that I listen to.
What type of music do you listen to?
I listen to country western. I listen
All right.
to rock. I'm a 70s rock guy. That's typically what's playing in my earbuds when I'm riding my Harley.
All right, what's your favorite country song right now? When I post pictures of this will be the background music.
I don't have any idea. I don't have.
Tell
a
me
favorite.
one country song you like. 'Cause
I don't know. I don't know. I can't. I don't know them. I don't know the names.
Give me a country song to ask
I
him
just
about.
listen. I just listen on the radio. I don't know.
What?
Couldn't tell you. These guys don't look like these guys.
Are you a John Denver fan?
No. No.
George Strait.
Sure.
Okay, good. Well,
Absolutely.
we'll do a George Strait
He
song.
just got inducted, man. He's a big deal right now.
All right, what are you currently watching? Anything you're watching on TV? Any movies you've seen lately?
I am watching a docuseries right now on Napoleon.
Okay.
That's what I'm
So you're not
watching.
like into the Netflix show Wednesday currently?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't even know what that is.
Big Brother?
No.
I'm just kidding.
No. So I'm watching something on Napoleon. I just watched a docuseries on Moses. It was really pretty well done. I enjoyed it a lot.
What channel was that?
I think it was on Prime.
Okay.
Prime Video, I think is where it was at.
The House of David. That's
Yes.
Prime. That was pretty good.
That was pretty good. And then I watch a lot of World War II documentaries.
Oh, my wife is obsessed with studying World War II. Has been that
I
way
am
forever.
too. Yeah, I enjoy that whole topic and studying the generals and the philosophies. And
Next time we do dinner together, you and I can talk about World War II, and I'll start playing on my phone.
And Valerie will be miserable.
Yes,
Yeah,
she can be
absolutely.
miserable. I'll play on my phone. Last one. What are you reading now?
I am in a doctoral program, and so I'm reading just a lot of books right now.
8 books a class.
Yeah. I'm reading a lot of books right now on the restoration of ministers.
Okay. Is there one that stood out?
No, but I do want to say this. There's a couple of philosophies that are there. And one of them is that when there's a moral failure, there's just no room for you anymore. You're just all done. You can be restored to the body of Christ, but you have no right to be involved in any ministry position. And then there's another school of thought on how to restore ministers. It's interesting that money and sex get all of the limelight on moral failures, and the rest of the list in Timothy, when it's violated and somebody isn't temperate or they violate some of those other standards, those don't somehow elevate to the money and the sex issues.
Yeah.
And the marriage issues. So most of my reading time is being spent there. I have a commitment that every book that a pastor in our district writes, I read. And so I've read, 5 or 6 books in the last year from our pastors that they've written, and I've enjoyed those. Our guys are doing a good job on their writing.
When are you done with your doctoral program?
It'll be a couple years.
Okay.
Couple years.
I'll be praying for you.
Well,
That
I appreciate it.
dissertation
Yeah.
kicked my rear.
I think that's what they're designed to do.
Yes, they are. Hey, thank you for your time. Thanks for investing in our team. Thanks for being on Pastors Unfiltered. If anybody wants to, is there any social media that you have that people wanted to follow you, learn more about you that they could?
I am really not on social media.
Okay.
but they are welcome to contact me at the district office. If they send an email or anything, I will respond.
I
to
will post in the show notes his personal cell number for those of you that want to connect with him. Thank you guys for listening. Bret, this was amazing. Loved every minute of it. Again, want to remind you, if you liked this episode, please share it, post it on social media, give us a 5-star review. But thanks for listening. And don't forget, let's make Jesus famous, because Jesus is the hope of the world.
Raiders roll.
We're having